Hello there, and welcome to today's edition of the Only Endometriosis podcast you need. My name is Sarah, your natural endometriosis expert, and today I'm going to be talking through endometriosis surgery, when natural doesn't work, and what you're missing in your natural endometriosis healing. So I want to start by issuing a slight apology. So if you tuned into last week's edition, you will have heard some traffic noise. I didn't appreciate just how bad the traffic noise was because at the time of recording I was in the midst of a middle ear infection, which meant I was completely deaf in one ear and it turns out significantly deaf in the other ear as well. So when I was recording it and when I listened to it before it went live, I just didn't realise just how bad it was. So somebody's feedback said that it sounded like I was sat in a lay-by on the side of the A1, so apologies. The message is still very important, so thank you for sticking with the episode if you did listen to it all the way through. No such traffic noise today, hopefully. I am back in my sanctuary with a tiny little window and not very much traffic noise outside at all, fingers crossed. So yes, thank you very much for sticking with me. So today I'm going to be talking about why natural healing might not have worked for your endometriosis. It's very strange. I've said before that people come to me in waves, so some months I'll have a flux of people wanting to talk about fertility and endometriosis. Some months I'll have people coming to me with fatigue, bloating. This month, well, I was going to say this month, but actually it's probably the last 6 weeks, I've had so many women talk to me about surgery and natural healing. And I don't know if that's just because of the energy I'm giving off or if there's been a sudden surge in waiting time shifts for surgery. But whatever the reason, it's coming thick and fast at the moment. I've had 2 inquiries just this last week, very, very similar. One from a lovely lady in the UK and one from an equally lovely lady over in the US. And I actually had a discovery call with the lady in the US this week, and it wasn't with a view to working with me. She just wanted a bit of advice and a bit of guidance, which is absolutely fine. I'm more than happy to do that. If you are listening, hi. This is not to shame you, by the way. So this episode is kind of a little bit of a rant from my perspective, but the key message that I want you to take away, all of you, not just the one person that I'm talking to, but all of you. The key message that I want you to take away from this is that whatever you're dealing with your endometriosis, whatever beliefs, misconceptions, whatever trials, hurdles you're experiencing, please know that it isn't your fault. Endometriosis is shrouded in misinformation, in fear, in snake oil salespeople, that it's really, really hard to get a clear perspective. It's hard enough when you're coming at it from a clear point of view, from a clear mind, but when you're struggling with symptoms, when you are experiencing all the crappy stuff that we have to deal with on a very regular basis, then it's almost impossible to see the wood from the trees. So please know that if you are resonating, or if whatever I'm saying today resonates with you, please know that it's absolutely not your fault. That you are exactly where you are because the system has let you down. So no matter how belligerent I get in today's episode, and there might be a few harsh words, and I don't mean them to land harshly with individuals. My frustration is with the system and with practitioners who peddle false promises. It isn't with you as individual fabulous women trying to find your way through the murky depth of the natural endometriosis and traditional endometriosis care pathways. So again, let me start by reiterating the fact that natural endometriosis healing is not the same thing as randomly trying different individual isolated treatment options. I'm going to talk through why it isn't and what to do instead. But I know that so many women that I've talked to, again, especially over the last 6 weeks, but over the last umpteen number of years, I know that it's really, really hard to avoid the noise of all these promises, of all these Instagram-friendly BS supplements, gut cleanses, anti-inflammatory shopping lists, all of the posts and the adverts that are designed to put or to make you feel some element of self-blame and shame and try this one thing, it's absolutely fabulous. I actually had somebody, I'm running an advert at the moment for my endometriosis workshop, which you're absolutely more than welcome to go and check out. It's a free 20-minute workshop, but to be honest, these podcasts go into way more detail, so just stick with the podcast. But I've been running an advert on Facebook, and I think it's quite an honest advert. It's quite open. It's like, it's 20 minutes of me sort of talking through the 3-step process, my 3-step process for managing endometriosis. It's something that I do myself. It's something that I teach and train and treat people in. And I had somebody kind of comment on it the other day saying, oh yeah, you're peddling this like it's a magic cure-all. I'm not. I absolutely am not. There is no magic cure for endometriosis. In fact, I say the exact opposite. Healing endometriosis naturally is a complex thing, in the same way that endometriosis is a complex condition. It takes time, it takes knowledge, and it takes energy. If you've got the time, if you have got the energy, and it doesn't have to be a constant energy, then there are other people who can bring the knowledge, but it has to be in a systematic, planned approach. We can't just keep trying different options or keep trying different variations of the same option and expect to be fixed like a miracle cure, because sadly, as much as I wish there was, there just isn't that option for us at the minute. What we're seeing, or what I'm seeing a lot of at the minute, and I don't know why it's come in this wave at this particular moment, but what I'm hearing a lot and what I'm seeing a lot of women struggling with are these promises that gut cleanses, that miracle supplements, that yoga, that diets, whatever the fad is, whatever the craze is, whatever the advert is, that these are going to really, really cure endometriosis. And it doesn't matter, it's taking 6 months. And rather than the practitioner saying, do you know what, this isn't working for you, I suggest you try A, B and C, they're keeping going. It's going to take a little bit more, it's going to take a little bit longer, just keep trying. The problem with trying insular, is that the right word? The problem with carrying on with individual isolated treatment options, even if you're trying 2 or 3 different isolated treatment options, you're still treating your symptoms. You're not treating the systems. You're not treating your body's systems. You're not seeing your body as a whole. And the practitioners, sadly, aren't seeing the body as a whole. They're saying maybe that they're treating the whole body. They're saying maybe that they're treating the whole symptoms. But actually, the reality is you can't treat whole body just with diet. You can't treat whole body just with supplements. They're masking the problem. It's exactly the same as taking a painkiller, or exactly the same as the implant, exactly the same as taking a contraceptive pill. Yes, they may work for a bit. It's exactly the same as the surgery, to be fair. Yes, it may work for a bit. It may suppress your symptoms. It might make you feel better for a short amount of time, but it isn't actually getting to the root cause of your endometriosis or the root causes of your endometriosis. And of course, that gets even more complex when you're struggling with comorbidity. So if you've got additional diagnoses, whether that be gynecological or something completely separate, then a lot of the time the practitioners that you see will say things like, we'll focus on this first and then we'll try that. We'll focus on that first and then we'll get to your endo. When actually, if you see somebody who is experienced in really supporting people with complex illnesses, with supporting people with the depth of healing that you need with endometriosis, then actually that person will look at your whole body. And it doesn't matter about the diagnoses. It doesn't matter. We won't do something first. We won't do something second. We might look at the prevalent symptoms first. So we might look at the reasons why. We might kind of start looking into the triggers and the reasons behind the fatigue, or the triggers and the reasons behind the bloating, but we'll treat the whole body as one. We won't put something to the side, because actually if you start to, especially if you're taking medication as well, but if you start to isolate conditions, then you're missing the point. Western medicine, I completely get that, because that's the view of Western medicine. If you go to the doctor with a poorly shoulder, 9 out of 10 doctors will just look at the shoulder. Whereas in alternative medicine, Eastern medicine, natural medicine, call it what you want, we look at the whole body as a whole system. Everything's intertwined, everything's working together. So we don't say, okay, we'll look at your endometriosis, but I can't help you with your thyroid issue, because they are not two separate issues. They are they are messages, they are symptoms that are telling us that something fundamentally is wrong somewhere. So if we can get to that, if we can get to what it is that's fundamentally not working properly, then we can start naturally to heal everything. Everything starts to get better because we're not isolating the specific condition. I hope that makes sense. And it is difficult to get your head around, because it's not how we're brought up understanding medicine. We are brought up understanding I've got a bad shoulder, so I'll treat the bad shoulder, rather than just to kind of go down the shoulder example. I really hope I can do this justice, but just to go down the shoulder example. So in alternative, in inverted commas, natural medicine, if you go to a practitioner with a poorly shoulder, then they will look at your shoulder. They'll absolutely look at where the pain is, what type of pain you're experiencing, where that pain's manifesting. So is it travelling down to your fingers? Is it travelling up your neck? And these are questions that a Western traditional medicine, well, not traditional, but you know what I mean, a mainstream medicine practitioner will ask as well. But then someone like me will start to look at how long you've had this pain. When did it manifest? What sort of things were going on for you at the time it manifested? Now, it might be something like a sports injury. It could be something really, really obvious. If it's a recurring injury, if it's an area where you're prone to weakness, then we'll start looking at other things. So taking the shoulder as the example. There's a whole host of things that it could be. But in say, Chinese medicine, sometimes the shoulder pain, recurring shoulder pain, acute shoulder pain can be an indication that there's something going on with the lung meridian, for example. So how is your respiration? Do you have any breathing issues? Are you struggling with grief? Have you been betrayed? Now, these are questions that might seem really, really alien to people who are just used to going to the doctors, to people who, like most of us here, who are listening, I've just been brought up with a Western medicine approach to a poorly shoulder. And I remember when many moons ago, before I went back to specialising in women's health, I was kind of an alternative, and again in inverted commas, I'm doing the inverted commas in the air, but I was I was an alternative kind of physio for a low league football team, a grassroots football team, and it was great fun. But quite often, so I'd have people coming to me with recurring injuries, lads coming to me with recurring injuries, with niggles, and they started coming to me more and more with things like digestion and skin issues. But right at the beginning, it was all about, I keep going over on my ankle, what's going on? And I would ask questions like that, and they'd just be like, yeah, this is really weird. But it gets to the root cause, because the body is a system. And again, you've heard me say so many times, if you don't listen to your body whisper, it's going to make you listen by screaming. Never said it like that before, but you know what I'm saying. So if there's something going on with our emotions, if there's emotional disruption, if there's imbalances, if there's blockages, then that starts to become physical. So if you're just looking at the physical as a physical issue, you're never going to be resolving the underlying root cause. And even some alternative practitioners will just look at resolving it in the way that they've been trained. So if they've only been trained in one modality, if they've only been trained in one way of looking at things, so if they are just purely a reflexologist, then they will just use reflexology to get to the bottom of things. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's probably just going to take a lot longer. If you are confronted with one of the banes of my life, which is essentially salespeople who are dressed up as wellness practitioners, who are only really there to sell you products, be wary of these people. Some of them are absolutely lovely. Some of them are my friends. So if you are listening to this podcast, I do apologise. And there are absolute value in what they're selling. I'm not saying that what they're selling isn't great or isn't beneficial. But when it comes to endometriosis, it is exactly the same as taking a painkiller. These things are never going to give you the deep healing and the complex work that you need if you're going to manage your symptoms longer term. So, if you're only looking at one thing, or if you're only trying a few things, scattergun approach, that's not the same as natural healing. it's kind of just taking natural medicine, but it isn't the same as natural healing. We need to look at the whole system. You can't fix, in inverted commas, endometriosis by just focusing on one meridian. You can't fix endometriosis by just focusing on one modality. You have to look at everything as a holistic picture, as a whole picture. If you think about what endometriosis is, and if you think about how Eastern medicine views endometriosis, if you haven't checked out my other podcasts, I can't remember when I did it, probably right at the beginning of these podcasts, but when I talk about possible root causes of endometriosis and the Chinese and Eastern philosophies around conditions like endo, you start to see just how complex and just how different this view of endometriosis is. And I get that it's a huge leap of faith for a lot of people. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been 20, when did I do my Reiki one? I don't know, about 2003, something like that. So that's when I started my practitioner journey. That's when I started my training to look at healing. So I've been doing this for over 20 years. Well, how long's... Well, I don't know. Can't think. It's still not completely better. That's my excuse. I've been doing this a long time. And even then, it baffles me sometimes. And it's still a leap of faith for me sometimes to really comprehend just how different you can start to see your body. So if we think about endometriosis in the terms that I talk about, we have a whole pelvic thing going on. So we may have physical misalignments, we might have physical twists and physical tilts and physical tension going on in our pelvis, in our abdomen. We might have hormonal elements to our endometriosis. Some women have all of these, some women have just one or two, but these are just kind of an example of how complex endometriosis can be. We may have hormonal elements, so we could have permanent hormonal imbalances. We may just have one or two hormones that are shifting things that manifest as PMDD type symptoms, or that manifest with, libido or heightened stress levels. We might have stress and anxiety as part of our endometriosis. We might have an immune system issue with our endometriosis. We can have thyroid, or from a Western term, we can have thyroid issues with linked to our endometriosis, digestive issues with our endometriosis, nervous system issues with endometriosis. When you start to break it down into individual labels, it starts to feel overwhelming, and you do start to get to that, well, where on earth do I start? Which one of these do I start with? If you strip all of that away and just focus on your symptoms, focus on healing your whole body, then you're starting to help every single one of those. But to just look at one, to just look at, okay, we're going to sort your pelvis out, okay, we're going to sort your hormones out, it isn't necessarily going to shift things longer term. Now, if you've only got one thing, you might hit lucky. So if you happen to, if your endometriosis is triggered by your digestion, by your diet, and you happen to try a diet, or happen to try a digestive reset, a gut reset, then you're going to hit lucky, and you might have actually stumbled on the thing that is going to help you long term, and that's absolutely fabulous. I'm not dissing that at all. The issue is when your symptoms keep coming back and you're still trying the same things, or you're trying variations of the same things. Now, I'm not saying not to try those things. I'm not saying to stop trying those things, but start trying different things. Start looking at other alternatives as well that may be able to help. Okay, if your diet is helping to a certain extent, then you probably do have a digestive element to your endo. But if your symptoms keep coming back, that suggests that there's more to it and it needs further investigation. That's when I start to hear people say that natural healing isn't working, that you can't heal endometriosis naturally. And that's annoying. It's upsetting. And the worst thing is, it's doing everybody else a disservice. It's doing you a disservice, because it's telling you that you can't get long-lasting relief, that there isn't anything you can do to make your symptoms better. When there is, you just haven't found it yet. You just haven't taken that whole system approach, and that isn't your fault. The system is letting you down. The systems are letting you down. Both Western and alternative medicine are letting you down. So let's move on to surgery. So this is the real reason for the podcast, because the two individuals that I was talking about earlier are certainly asking this question, and these are the conversations that I've been having recently. Natural endometriosis management doesn't work, therefore the only option for me is surgery. The conversation that I had the other day was absolutely asking my advice on this. Natural healing isn't working for me, so I feel like the only option is surgery. Can I have your advice? That kind of mirrors to some extent or other the other conversations I've had recently, the other verbal conversations, the telephone calls, and just the text messages and emails. Some people are coming at it from a point of view that I've tried natural healing, it hasn't worked. Some people are coming at it from a point of view of I haven't really tried anything naturally, I don't know where to start. Is it worth starting before I have surgery? Other people are literally just saying, please help me, I just don't want to have surgery. So if that is you, and you're currently staring surgery down the barrel of a stethoscope, then please know that you are not alone. This confusion, this whole host of emotions you've got is completely natural, completely understandable. And the worst thing is there is no right or wrong answer. So as I said to the fabulous lady that I had the consultation with a couple of days ago, I can't advise you whether or not to take surgery. And I'm going to do a podcast episode, maybe next week, maybe in a couple of weeks, with more information about how to make that decision. But just in terms of this podcast, don't feel as if you have to take surgery because there is no other option, because natural ways haven't worked for you, especially if you have just been trying one or two different modalities without any clear plan, without any clear structure, without any clear monitoring or support. Because if you tried the clear program, the clear support, the clear accountability, the clear structure, then I can't guarantee anything, but chances are you're going to have a lot better outcomes. So there's possibly the option of delaying surgery until you've tried that. There is also the option of having surgery and using surgery as a complete reset. So using surgery to completely start from scratch, in effect. So I, as you know, and I've been accused of being anti-surgery before, and I'm absolutely not anti-surgery. If you are at a point where you fundamentally believe that surgery is going to help, and don't get me wrong, it can absolutely be helpful for some women. Initially, you are going to see improvements. So if they are getting rid of the endometriosis in your abdomen, then you are going to see some improvements in your symptoms. You might get other symptoms and you'll have the whole recovery from surgery to recover from, but you will see some short-term symptoms, some short-term relief from your symptoms. Especially if your pain is severe, especially if you have added adenomyosis as well, then you will find surgery helpful. What happens after surgery is the key. So my advice to you, if you are going to do surgery, is to give yourself adequate time to heal from that surgery before you start trying anything else. Find a practitioner, engage with that practitioner who you want to work with, who you are confident will help you look at your system, look at your body as a whole entire system, who has adequate experience with endometriosis or similar conditions. It doesn't necessarily have to be endometriosis, but what you want to see is success with whole body conditions. And start engaging with that practitioner as early as you can, even if that is just a discovery call, even if that's just following them on social media or whatever it is that they offer, whatever their presence is, then engage with that person. Give yourself adequate time to heal from the surgery. And again, if you can talk to that person, talk to a few people, get a feel for who you want to work with. And then as soon as your body is ready, start that plan. So start putting in place things to identify your triggers, identify your possibly your root causes, look at the symptoms you've been experiencing. If you already track things, then that's absolutely brilliant. If you don't already track things, that's, you know what I'm going to say. That's my first thing. Start tracking things before your surgery. Quite often we forget just how bad things are. And this happens on a month-by-month basis. This is one of the reasons that women don't seek help early enough, because we're not given the right information, we're not given the right education, we're not given the right support around our menstrual health. But quite often, no matter how things get one cycle, normally, I shouldn't use that word, but 9 times out of 10, symptoms pass, and you can have a few days, a few weeks where you're completely symptom-free, and then it hits again. But in the symptom-free period, we forget just how bad it is. So if you're tracking your symptoms, you've got something there, something tangible that you can look back after your surgery and say, well, hang on, I was getting these symptoms. This is how my endometriosis was manifesting. So this is the kind of thing that we're going to have to look at when we're working together. Because surgery isn't going to reset your full body. It's not going to give you long-term relief. You might get a few years, you might get a few months. There's no real way of knowing. So if you start to track now, if you start to have conversations with people as soon as you are ready after healing from the surgery, then you can start to get in there quick. You can start to address things before the symptoms start showing. You don't have to wait for your symptoms to recur before you start seeking help with your endo. What we want to do is change or challenge the reasons why you're getting your endometriosis flare-ups. So if the environment within your abdomen is staying exactly the same post-surgery as it was pre-surgery, chances are your symptoms are going to come back because you're not the environment hasn't changed. And again, that's not your fault. It's just the way Western medicine works. Ideally, so people talk about gold standard surgery. Ideally, the gold standard for the situation potentially that you may find yourself in now is to have surgery as a bit of an abdominal reset, as an endometriosis reset, to wipe the slate clean, let's say, and then start this root cause healing, start this whole systemic approach to natural management after the surgery. Now, if you don't want to have surgery, that's absolutely fine too. You can do all of this without having surgery. The key thing here is to find that person who's going to support you as soon as you can. So start recording, start tracking everything if you're not doing that already. But start having conversations with people who you think may be able to help. And again, the same advice goes. If you can find somebody who is well versed in endometriosis, who gets endometriosis, that's absolutely fine, but it's not essential. If you can find somebody who understands full body conditions, who has experience with conditions that cause inflammatory issues, that cause fatigue, that cause hormonal shifts, that cause full system change, then that's the thing that we're really, really looking for. You need to gel with that person. You need to trust that person because you will potentially be sharing some quite intimate information emotionally and physically. So you need to trust them. You need to like them. And you need to go all in. So this is one thing I cannot stress enough. When I work with women, and this is something that I've been really weak on in the past, this is something that I have really had to work on when it came to my boundaries as a practitioner. Quite often I will work with women who already have certain things in place. So they're already maybe working with a nutritionist, or they're already maybe working with a supplement person, or whatever that is, a physio, whatever. And they're already invested with that person. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. What I've done in the past is just let that go completely and not really even though I've kind of screamed in the back of my mind, no, please don't do this. If you are choosing one person, then go all in with that one person. Now, that's not to say that you have to ditch the other people. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're working with one person, let that one person take the lead. So if that one person says something like, okay, you're taking these supplements, I'd like you, and I'm not saying that they would say this in session 1, but in like session 5 or whatever. Right, okay, you're taking these supplements. Not certain these supplements are helping you. So what I'd like you to do is just come off them. and we'll give your body a few months, and we'll track the impact that this has over the next few weeks. But I'd like to give your body some space without these supplements. Trust that person. Trust that lead person. Feed everything back to this lead person. So if you are working with somebody and you're also working with somebody else, and that's absolutely fine with the main person that you're working with. So if you're working with me, or if you're working with somebody like me who's taking the lead with your endometriosis, but you're also working with a pelvic floor physio, for example, ensure that every conversation you're having, every feedback is fed back. Now, you might get some instances where the advice is conflictory, where conflictory? Have I just made up another word? Anyway, I should start my own dictionary. But there might be situations, and there probably will be situations, where the advice you're getting contradicts from practitioner to practitioner. That's when we need to just communicate, work through things, and find a way forward. And again, if you're tracking stuff, then the impact that both sides is having is undeniable. Just because somebody's well versed in endometriosis and just because somebody's seen success doesn't mean they're always going to be right. The key thing is to find somebody who isn't just going to blindly say, no, do this, follow me regardless. Having true, open, honest conversations and being able to say, well, actually, my nutritionist said this, and to be honest, it's really helped me in the past. This is where your evidence helps. But if you say, look, I really don't want to do that, I really feel as if it's really helping me, then you want to be able to have that conversation with the lead person, with the person that you're working with. So let's have a bit of a recap. Interventions, personalised interventions, including things like pelvic realignment, massage, pelvic health issues, nervous system support, so things like breath work, Reiki, journaling, trauma, all of that kind of stuff. Hormone support, so not just like eat green veg, but from a functional perspective, so looking at rebalancing your hormones through different mechanisms, not just a diet based. Emotional resilience, mindset, belief stuff. All of those things are integral when we're looking at endometriosis, but none of them will work in isolation. Even if they work for a little bit of time, none of them are going to work in isolation because they're not tackling the root cause. If you're just looking at these in isolation, then that isn't natural healing. That's not managing your endometriosis naturally. That's just the same as popping a pill and expecting the pill to do a miracle cure. When we're talking about natural healing for endo, when we're talking about natural endometriosis management, it takes patience. Like I said, it takes time, it takes energy, and it takes consistency, but not in terms of energy and time. It takes consistency in terms of believing. Now, we do have periods where, we have good days, we have bad days, but it takes that consistency in terms of somebody to support you and somebody to keep that belief shining. The easiest way to keep your belief shining is to track things, because you can start to see improvements. If you're giving yourself a score out of 10 every day for your pain, and you know that 3 months ago, 7 days out of 8, what am I talking about? 3 days out of 7, you were scoring 10 out of 10 for your pain. Then you start working with somebody and you can see that pain shifting, and suddenly 3 days out of 7, that 10 out of 10 is shifting to an 8 out of 10. Then it's shifting to a 6 out of 10. Then it's shifting down from 3 days to 1 day. Then it's shifting to it's just maybe a 3 out of 10 just on ovulation day. You can start to see the changes. Now, they are not changes that you might recognize if you're not tracking. So these are things that you forget. These are things that aren't necessarily tangible. But if you're tracking them, you can start to see the shifts. And when you start to see shifts, even on your bad day, you can look back and you can fire up that belief again. You can start to see the changes that are happening and you can start to believe in that vision. So if this has resonated with you, again, I just want to reiterate, it isn't your fault. It's not your fault that you're stuck in this fog. It's not your fault that you that you don't believe your endometriosis can get any better. And it's not your fault that natural mechanisms, natural techniques might not have worked for you. You've been let down, you've been given the wrong information, you've been given the wrong map, if you like, to achieving this vision. It's not your fault, but it is in your power to change this. It is in your power to reshape those beliefs and to reshape how you approach natural management for endometriosis. So be that instead of going straight in for surgery, or like I say, if you opt for the reset that surgery will give you. And when I talk about surgery, I'm not talking about hysterectomies, by the way. That's a whole different podcast. But when we talk about surgery, then doing that reset, getting rid of the endometriosis, resetting, and then starting your natural management process. It's up to you. That is in your power to control that. If you do feel stuck, it's not because your body can't heal itself. Everybody's body has the capacity to heal itself if it's given the right tools. It just means you haven't found the right approach. You haven't found those right tools yet. Be very, very gentle with yourself. There's too much blame. There's too much self-deprecation out there, especially around endometriosis. So just be really, really gentle with yourself. This isn't your fault. And like I said, it is in your power. If you want to shift things, and you don't have to, you're absolutely within your rights to do exactly what you want to do. It's your body, it's your endometriosis. You can do exactly what you want to do, and you have the power to do exactly what you want to do. So that's all from me today. Don't forget, if you want your free endometriosis empowerment workbook, you can do. And there's also the exclusive podcast offer as well for 50% off the empowerment bundle, which is kind of your first step. There's like a pain management thing in there. There's a womb reconnection toolkit in there. There's a whole host of different things. Just go and check it out. And if it does speak to you, then you just use your podcast discount code, which again I've forgotten to look up, but anyway, it'll be on the show notes. So use the link or use the code and get your discount from there. So as ever, I wish you a fabulous week wherever you are with your endometriosis journey. I wish you every health, every happiness. And if you are struggling to find a practitioner, then do feel free to reach out to me and I will help in any way I can. Even if it's not for a full program working with me, I will still give you all the help and support I can. Until next time, take care.